Mr. Wrestle Talk is doing the news all of next week while Mr. Davis is off, so I better make the most of this news while I can. At next weekend's Clash of Champions Gold Rush, the one night of the year that every main roster champion will have to defend their championship, WWE Champion Drew McIntyre will defend his strap in an a local medical automobile match against Randy Orton. Drew has been pretty dominant as champ, never really looking in serious threat of dropping the title, but if all the signs and speculation are to be believed, his reign could be coming to an end in the back of an ambulance. Writing in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer pointed out that Randy's previous clean losses to Drew and Keith Lee would point towards Randy possibly picking up the belt next weekend, because nothing says momentum like 2 clean losses. Classic WWE booking. What we also know is that there are at least thoughts of Randy facing Edge at WrestleMania again next year, and that match is planned to be for the title. So WWE is running out of opportunities to put the belt on Randy if this is the plan. Drew dropping the title in an ambulance match would also allow him to potentially be protected in defeat, not taking a pinfall or submission loss. Think back to Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman at Great Balls of Fire, when Roman just missed a spear into the ambulance and Strowman won. And speaking of Roman, we've now got a little bit of a better idea where they're planning to take his character, which continues to be the best thing in WWE right now, don't at me. The similarities between Roman's show up and win character and Paul Heyman's other client Brock Lesnar are pretty apparent, with Lesnar also showing up and winning, even in matches he's not a part of. However, according to the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, WWE is keen to distance Roman from any further Brock Lesnar comparisons. The plans are to make the Reigns-Heyman dynamic as different as possible from Lesnar-Heyman. The idea is that everyone knew that while Lesnar was a mercenary, he was also friends with Heyman. He smiled at his promos, laughed at his jokes, and longtime fans knew the relationship dated back to Lesnar's start on the main roster in 2002. With Reigns, it's the opposite. There is no friendship. The idea is that with Reigns, he is completely in charge of the relationship. Now that is a character I can really get behind, but also, ooh, what a heel, boo, Roman. Last night, PW Insider reported that former WWE Women's Champion and our best friend Melina, I once played Smash Bros with her, has signed a contract with WWE and will be returning within the next week. However, Melina herself has responded to the report saying, I am not signed with WWE, but that doesn't mean it's not a possibility. My reason for this post is that it bothers me that these sites lie to fans. If I potentially get signed, don't forgive them for lying to you. I know there are those that aren't a fan of mine, but I still will care about them as I do my own fans. She went on to say that she was incredibly grateful for any kind of contact with WWE, but reiterated that no contract had been signed. Melina to WWE confirmed. But now it's time for a review of last night's episode of SmackDown in about 5 minutes. The show opened up with an episode of The Dirt Sheet, where Miz revealed he was the one who sent Mandy Rose to Raw, and it was all because she was the only thing holding Otis back from ascending to the top of the SmackDown totem pole something lies. This brought out Otis, who promptly murdered both Miz and Morrison, and then went back for some more. Miz was wearing tighty whities. Comedy. But then backstage, Miz revealed it was all part of the plan. He got on the phone and said, "Did you see that? Is it enough?" before smiling and walking away. Later in the show, it was revealed that he'd hit Otis with a lawsuit for some reason, because it's so rare for people to get beaten up on a wrestling show, which would force Otis to relinquish the Money in the Bank briefcase. For some reason. He has 1 week to decide what to do, which is convenient because I think he might do it on next week's show. Weirdly, when Otis turns to Tucker and says, "We're in trouble," Tucker then says, "No, you're in trouble." Dick move, Tucky. Dick move. How could you possibly abandon your friend? I wouldn't know anything about that. Well, at least this story has a point now, even if it's not great. After that, it's time for more tag team dissension, because in a match between Gran Metalik and Cesaro, Kalisto and Lince Dorado argued and got themselves both ejected, allowing Cesaro to beat Metalik. So, naturally, Lucha House Party are challenging for the titles at Clash of Champions Gold Dust. After that came a moment of bliss with Nikki Cross as Alexa's special guest. Nikki, of course, is facing Bayley at Clash of Champions Gold member, so she cut a quick promo on her to attempt to further that story. But the real story here is Alexa still referring to Nikki as her best friend and attempting to explain her actions on her last week before Lacey Evans interrupted and said Nikki Cross doesn't have a mean streak. Former member of Sanity, Nikki Cross doesn't have a mean streak. Aight. This led into Nikki versus Lacey, which Nikki just won. She had a really cool fire-up spot leading into the finish and maintained neck control after hitting a tornado DDT, leading into the neck breaker for the win. But Lacey saw Alexa on commentary. Alexa's Uncool podcast launches this Tuesday, didn't you know? And crawled over to her saying, "What, are you gonna get the Fiend?" Which prompted Alexa once again to glaze over, hit Sister Abigail on Lacey, and walk away. I really like this story, but I think something else needs to happen now instead of Alexa just hitting Sister Abigail's. Sasha Banks was interviewed remotely from the Performance Center next, and after cutting an emotional promo about how her and Bayley used to walk the halls of the Performance Center, saying they were going to take over WWE someday, Bayley attacked her again from behind, wrapping another chair around her neck, but she was stopped before she could do it again. My only complaint with this segment is that Bayley should have done it again. It would have been so good, but this was still great. Remember that Bayley versus Nikki Cross is happening at Clash of Champions, though it doesn't really feel like it. It's all about Nikki and Alexa, and about Bayley and Banks. Next up was the matchup I didn't realize how much I wanted until it began, of the month. AJ Styles versus Sami Zayn, which was a quick but fun match, with both working well with the heel versus heel dynamic. The finish was spot on, with Zayn attempting to use the tights, which the referee spotted, before Styles used the tights, which the referee didn't spot, for the win. Zayn is getting absolutely no love since his return, and it's great for his character. Jeff Hardy came out afterwards though, beat them both up, and declared that at Clash of Champions GoldenEye, it's going to be a triple threat ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. I am very much excited for that match. Big E backstage got his own back on Sheamus, sort of, with him instead putting the security guy who tricked him through a car windshield and then putting him in the trunk of a car. Serious Big E is genuinely incredible. And finally, after an awesome video package earlier in the night going over the history of Roman and Jey Uso's family and what they mean to the wrestling industry, it was the main event of Roman and Jey versus Corbin and Sheamus in a Samoan street fight. This match was pretty much perfect. It felt like a really big deal that Roman was wrestling, and they gave you just enough so that you were left wanting more. Roman was taken out relatively early over by the commentary table by both Sheamus and Corbin, so that Jey was left alone and put through a table. But Roman fired back, spearing Sheamus through the barricade, but then Jey Uso, of all weapons, used the Universal title to hit Corbin, who turned around into a spear from Reigns. Reigns then had to scramble out of the way with a look of panic on his face, as Jey had already leapt off the ropes to hit a splash on Corbin, and he pinned him for the win. Afterwards, JT celebrating with the title before chucking it to Roman. The two smiled and embraced, and then as Jey walked away, Roman's smile turned to a scowl, and you know, shit's going down at Clash of Champions Golden Boot. All of this was perfect. The facials, the wrestling, the timing of the spots, Jey using the title, his tease afterwards, their smiles and Roman's smile turning to a scowl. Man, I cannot wait for Clash of Champions Goldie Wang. Roman is going to kill him. I'm so invested in Roman, guys. He feels like a superstar. He feels like a main event draw. He is the guy. Oh god, I'm a Roman mark, aren't I? Yeah, I am. I'm a Roman mark, and I'm proud of it. Long live the Roman Empire. So that was the show. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, because I'll be replying to people from out of the trunk of the car where Biggie put that dude after he put him through a windshield. This was a great show, and really built towards the next pay-per-view. All the stories were furthered, even if some of them aren't the best stories. Otis and Miz. But some of them are fantastic stories, and I cannot wait to watch them play out. This show gets a smacktastic 4 out of 5. Hey, you watching, do you want this sexy t-shirt? I bet you do. This is now available exclusively for our $50 or more Patreon backers for no extra cost. So check the link in the description to be taken to our Patreon page right now, so you can get yours sent to you wherever you are in the world. Also, I get one too, just because I'm awesome. Or you can press the P button right next to me on the screen to be taken to our Patreon page too. Press the video on the right to find out more about a major WWE debut potentially being leaked, and press the video below that to find out more about a rumor killer on a WWE star potentially leaving the company. Subscribe here for daily wrestling news videos. I've been Corporate Chopper. Jam that jam.